Hey there, fellow citizen of the internet. Welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast. Today I have with me Tania Davis, and welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. What are we yapping about today? Yapping is an interesting word, but what are we talking about today?
I don't know. I think we're talking about a lot of things. What is my journey to where I am today? And what am I passionate about? And
Yeah.
how did I get to writing my book? So
Oh.
I think it's kind of that journey.
Yeah, I put you on the spot there, but yeah, I want to explore with you, of course, your story, uh,
Mhm,
but the overarching theme here maybe can touch on work. Kind of sounds like
mhm,
a dull topic, but
mhm,
employment, work, sustainability across time,
mhm,
and maybe you can touch more on the women's side in the workforce part of the equation better.
mhm,
So with that being said, where are you now, and where were you born?
mhm. Yeah. So I currently reside in a suburb of Chicago, and I was born in Long Beach, California. So
Okay.
I grew up in sunny weather, nice
Yeah.
beaches, good food.
Yeah.
Um,
So
a-
what's
and now
what's
I'm in
is
cold weather.
yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. How long you been in Chicago?
Over 20 years now.
Okay. Wow. So
Yeah.
so so uh one of my moms, she's from Brazil, São Paulo.
Oh, nice.
Sunny
Oh, São
weather,
Paulo.
right? Right.
Hmm.
And now she's been in Michigan for a couple of decades. So there's a similar story there.
I
So
totally understand.
yeah, yeah. What okay. So that's where you were born, that's where you are now.
Mhm.
What do you do for a living now?
Yeah, so I am the Chief People Officer at NORC at University of Chicago. NORC is a bipartisan research organization, nonprofit, and I've always been in the capacity of one form or another as a HR practitioner.
Mhm.
So I've kind of grown up in parts of the business
Yeah.
and as well as HR.
And so when you were in sunny California as a youngling,
Mhm.
did you ever envision that this would be the trajectory of your career? And if not, what was your dream job as a youngling?
No, when I was younger, I thought I wanted to be an attorney or an architect. Uh, I
Okay.
used, yeah, I was a little introverted, and drawing was my outlet,
Okay.
um, and music was my outlet. Um,
Mm,
so I grew up in a big family, and so it's one of those families where your cousins are like your siblings because there's so many of you, and you're always huddled
right.
together. Yeah.
Mhm.
So.
So uh drawing. Drawing was your outlet, music was your outlet, so you have an an artistic inclination for sure. Do you still explore those outlets today?
I do, as I've kind of matured and grown, it's one of the reasons why I think I fell into human resources. There's the analytical aspect of it, and then there's also the creative to some degree aspect, and then I like to say, and I would hope the humanity side of it.
Mm,
Um, so I do. I still like to draw, and I kind of have my different outlets for my creativity. And I think the balance is good and it has served me well in my career.
You are an architect of humans today.
I
Uh,
love that.
huh, interesting. What was your most recent drawing?
So it's actually a painting. A friend of mine during COVID, she found COVID, I think, brought out for some, maybe it was, not a good experience, but for me, it was wonderful.
Mm,
Um, and there is this online where you can take your picture and they convert it into a painting. And so
mm,
I'm working on a painting, paint by numbers.
Okay.
A lot of detail, a lot of shadows, but it's, take your time with it, and I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
I signed up for and I signed up for a pottery class, which is like really
okay.
I don't know where the thought came from one day, but it's like, maybe I want to take up a pottery class. It's just one of those
Yeah.
things. And I signed up. It's like 2 months out, right? And then when I tell my
Yeah.
friends that, they're like, "What, Tania? Where did that
Right.
come from?" Like, I don't know. I'm taking a pottery class. So
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Huh. So how did you fall into HR?
So that was really interesting. I was working uh, for TRW, a space and defense. I think it's systems integrated now.
Okay.
And I was building out databases, and there was a contract that was extended, and they were building an in-house HR team. And so it's just easier to kind of pull from internal resources. So I was kind of voluntold. I didn't know much about HR at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Um, I had the knack to connect with folks, and I guess I scored high on their test, able to kind of, they wanted to build out a benefits program, and I was able to um, help on that team. So um, just through that journey, I entered HR more on the analytics side first, and I enjoyed that. Um, and then it just evolved from there. And I enjoy the diversity in the work, the benefits, compensation, recruiting, employee relations.
Mm-hmm.
HR has just really evolved into a business, and I'm so excited to see that from when I started the journey as more of a personnel. Um,
Okay.
it is more strategic and
Mm-hmm.
a lot more involved, but people are more complex. The workplace is more complex, and so how you manage people, how you connect with folks, how you build company cultures for people to want to stay, and also develop leaders. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's sometimes can be a daunting task, but it's also an exciting task. And to watch people grow, develop, and you kind of see their evolution and your evolution as well. Um, I like to say that, I don't always show up as the teacher. I'm a student a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I have a lot of humility around that. And I've worked for some phenomenal leaders, and all leaders are not equal.
So what makes what makes a good leader?
I think in the workplace today, what makes a good leader is someone that can authentically connect with their team, that is willing to look outside of biases and social conflicts to really help everyone equally have a good journey. Someone that can articulate the company's vision, someone that can align a team around that vision, someone that can admit when they're wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
and has self-aware. I think self-awareness. The more I think about, I think it's self-awareness. Having an understanding of the dynamics that you bring to the table, it can really help a career or it can demolish a career.
Yeah.
And I think the workplace today people are more focused around help me grow and not have agendas around that. And it's a different interaction. It's a
Okay.
different interaction.
So you touched on having started initially more or less on the analytical side. Um,
Mhm,
what does that entail? Like, are you looking at the different packages? Are you like what does and yeah,
mhm.
what's the approach of the and being analytical on the HR side? I don't quite I don't have the grasp on that yet.
Yeah. No, so what I was referring to early on was, we were evaluating compensation structures
Okay.
So salary bands, and
Yeah.
how do you pay employees? And is it by region? Is it by, how do you make that determination? Also looking at benefits design. How much does an employee pay? How much does the company pay? What is the right
Mm-hmm.
structure and offering to support the employee population, as well as, maintain the cost, for the company.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect. And then the other aspect, if you want to, fast forward today, analytics plays a very strong part in decision making in organizations in terms of turnover. Do you have the right folks in the right seat? Do you have the right career trajectory, internally for folks to feel that they're working for a good company where they can grow? And how are you capturing that data? What is that? What is the complexity of that population? Um,
Mm,
and do you have the right leaders in place to, to lead that, to drive it, right? There's a
mm-hmm.
saying that people don't leave companies, they leave leaders. And,
Mm.
I agree with that. I agree with
Okay.
that. So I think it's one thing to, carry a title. It comes with a lot of action. And respect is
Mm-hmm.
not something that's given, it's something that's earned, and it's earned by your actions.
Right. Right.
Um, and and that's what I think the workplace is wanting to experience today.
Mm-hmm. Biggest challenge of an HR person. That's so. Two questions.
Mhm.
Yeah. One, what is in your opinion like one of the biggest challenges for an HR person? And then two, would you today start an HR agency? I think is that a term?
I don't know if I would start an agency. I think the biggest challenge is maintaining a workforce and
Okay.
understanding the dynamics of the workplace and leadership development. Because if you don't have the right leadership in place, people will not stay.
Mm,
Or if it's an organization where they feel they cannot thrive or have success, they will not stay. And so it's a different, we have what, five generations in the workplace today. And,
mm,
um, some of the driving factors are the same in terms of why people stay at a company, and then some are vastly different.
mm.
And, organizations are responding to many things to support their employee population.
Okay. And so okay. So what is one of the biggest contributing factors towards a high turnover? Would you say?
Poor leadership, poor leadership,
Really?
and poor
Huh.
leadership and mobility. If employees feel they don't have, well, there's three things actually. So leadership, m- mobility in their career, and if they feel they don't connect, if they don't belonging, I
Hmm.
would say. Mhm.
Would in the mobility, are you referring to economic mobility? Is it being able to acquire more
To
titles as
grow,
time goes? Okay.
to grow in the career. So it might be gaining more experience, working on different projects,
Yeah.
being promoted. Um, yeah.
Okay. So
So
economic
mobility,
mobility and then responsibility as well.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Huh. Paint us a picture of your teenage self. So, what does high school look like?
Um, let's see. I was a little nerdy. Nerdy is still a word.
Yeah.
I think my friends would describe me because here's the funny thing. I still have my friends from elementary school. So
Wow, that's
uh,
cool.
this conversation comes up often
Mm,
when we meet for the holidays.
okay.
Um, I was always curious, um, and I traveled in different lanes. So I played sports, but I also played the violin and the flute.
Mm,
Um, I was part of the chorus group, and so I did chamber choir and jazz. Um, I was also in theater, and
wow.
I was in student government. I held a position in student government all
Okay.
throughout high school. Um, However, my dancing abilities lacked a lot.
Can't have it all, I guess.
Yeah, you just can't have it all. Reminded of that as well. So, yeah, I would say my younger self, I was really, really blessed, and I just can't, I had a really good village,
Mm,
and
mm,
I think a lot of that went into molding and um, my just, forming as a young person. Um, I had a really
mm,
good village, community, excuse me, community, family, um, and uh, yeah, I look back at memories and I either laugh at myself or laugh with, but I really enjoyed my childhood.
okay, okay, that's really good to hear. That is really good to hear. I also did some sports. I am a bona fide couch potato now,
Okay.
but um, at the time, yeah, did some sports. I also did theater. I lack. I'm I'm useless in the dancing and music department,
Yeah.
we have that in common. But would you say that? I guess it's more of a question. What role
Hmm.
would you say that these things, theater, sports, music,
Hmm.
the role that they played in? I don't know if you classify yourself as a leader, but you have leadership qualities. Um, what was the role that these extracurricular activities played in making you into a leader?
I would say it played a huge role. And also, I would say my family structure played a huge role.
Family, yeah.
I grew up with a lot of cousins and aunts and
Mm,
uncles
mm,
and strong personalities and different backgrounds. And so, it gave me a strong appreciation for differences.
mm, mm.
And, I always say my family keeps me grounded, but, it's a safe place where I can always go. And it has taught me to look at humanity different, I think, in a positive
Mm,
way. Um,
okay.
and that does, come up in a lot of things that I do. I don't hold things in,
Okay.
and I don't hold grudges or anything like that. Um, and I think a lot of that just has to do with my upbringing, my value system. Um, I want to see the greater good in people,
Mm,
even
mm,
if
mm,
it's not coming off that way to me. Um, I start with best intentions first. However, I Dr. Angelou, when people show you who they are, I believe them.
mm.
um,
Yeah.
but in all seriousness, I think it has to do with how I approach things, how I think things through, um, how I my view of the world, and I think my childhood has equipped me and given me the confidence to stand when things are not going well or when things are maybe not the way that um, I would do or treat people.
Mm,
So
mm. Okay.
I look
So
I look for common ground. I would say it's taught me to look for common ground. I think that's the foundation of it. I try to find the common ground in all situations, um, and try not to, even though it's hard to take things personally. I think in this climate, it's just so heightened. People
yeah.
really don't listen to understand. They listen for you to either agree with them or their voice to be heard. And
Okay.
that doesn't give a lot of room for learning on either side. And I think that's what we see. And it plays out in the workplace. Back to your
Mm,
earlier question, it plays out in the workplace. Matter of fact, it's magnified in the workplace. Um, you know, I it's something that just stays in my head. Someone mentioned that they don't forget. Something happens to them and they just don't forget. They hold on to it. And I thought, wow, I, I don't understand that. I don't know how you have room for growth or self development or even have self awareness if you only hold on to pain or things that you don't like. I don't understand that. Um, yeah.
So what separates a good HR person from a great
Mhm.
HR person?
I think a great HR and a good, I think the degrees, right? What I've seen in HR professionals, ones that I have a lot of respect for, is one, their ability to understand the business that they operate in. And then
Okay.
two, it's one thing to be able to cite policies and practices, but how does that really apply in, from a humanity perspective, right? How do
Mm-hmm.
you really apply that to help people learn and grow versus the robotic form of this is what's in the policy 1.23 says,
Right, right.
and so I think a great, um, and I always say good to great because it's an evolution. You just don't walk in HR and you're great. You
Mm-hmm.
grow. You start off. I would most start off good, and they develop into great. And
Okay.
those that I've seen develop into great are individuals that have self-awareness, that understand the business, that are able to articulate the HR practices and into how it supports and helps the business, able to help develop the leaders and also have influence in the company culture. HR doesn't drive it. HR supports it in collaboration
Mm.
with others. But I've seen really good to great HR practitioners have the ability to influence company culture in a positive way.
Okay, okay. So high school, you do
Mhm.
all kinds of extracurricular activities. Family played a major role into helping you be the leader that you are today. Um,
Mhm.
the diversity of different personalities played a major role. It sounds like, and all of those are transferable skills into the HR world.
Right.
How about college? How did
Mhm.
college go?
College was like a learning experience, like anything else.
Okay.
I think it's like high school 2.0 but in a more expanded way because you're in a more global environment. But um, I would say college, yes, but I fast forward to when I was in school to get my MBA as an adult, um, because there was a different juggle. It was family, work, school,
Mm,
and community, and trying to be in all pockets equally was is not always optimal. But I would say there was a lot of learning in that time of my life about myself as well as academically. And then fast forward to my PhD cohort, I would say that's the same. I would say definitely I'm a journey learner. And the PhD journey was a lot of the same. It was during COVID, which was really interesting. Um, but it was also an opportunity to self reflect and um, really analyze what do I want to do when I grow up and what does that look like and how can I, be more impactful in what I do.
yeah.
But there was just a lot of learning there as well, more so about myself.
Did you continue to play sports and do theater and music in your tertiary education?
No, the creative side it comes out in different ways.
Mm.
Sports, no. Um, I don't know. I have a friend that's trying to, you know, get me out there with pickleball. I don't think that's going to happen soon, but
Okay.
I mean, but it seems like a really cool sport. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but no, I get out and walk, and um, but no, not really in sports, when my kids were playing sports, of course, I was the sports mom and I would
Yeah,
attend all
yeah.
the games, but not that's probably as far as it went. And I'm sure they were happy about that too. But no,
Mm-hmm.
I just do it in different ways. I'm curious. I'm a very curious person, and so I'm always willing to test and try something different, and I think that shows in my work. I um, I'm willing to to try. I'd rather try it than not to see,
Mm-hmm.
and test the boundaries. I think that shows in my
Okay.
work.
Okay. I think before we hit record here, I was trying to poke at you at either direction of starting a podcast. So, speaking of trying trying new things and being
I don't think
curious.
I'm there yet on that one, but
Okay. Okay, okay. No harm, no harm. Okay, when it comes to someone that is starting a business or has had a, this is more accurate, has had a business for quite a minute. Um, how 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 do you know when you need to bring on an HR person?
hmm hmm So it depends on the complexity of the business, right? It depends on how many employees do you have, where are they located, what are the dynamics of the employment arrangements. Um, if it's a small company, no employees, uh, you might not need an HR person. But even if you're a small company, you have 5 employees, they're in different states. They might have employment agreements or
Mm-hmm.
contracts. You might need an HR person because of the state laws and employment agreements. Yes, you can use an attorney for that. But if you're looking to scale, then you definitely will want to have an HR person to scale with you around that so that you're building the business and aligning the people to that. Um, so it really, I would say it depends on the business, but
Okay.
in the market today, you know, a small company can hire an HR consulting firm, to save costs and get the same services. Um,
Mm.
or, has a number of employees, most leaders would prefer to have someone with a background, an HR background with them as they think through the strategic parts of the business, especially if you're looking at scale. Definitely want to have an HR person there.
Hmm. At the beginning you said that as a youngling you thought maybe you might pursue law and become a lawyer and whatnot. But as I'm hearing you speak, firms and policies, and you didn't fall too far off from that. I mean, you might not be a lawyer, but you're definitely dancing around the edges of understanding different laws and regulations and whatnot. So, for whatever that's worth, I just picked that picked that up. So could you touch on the ratio of women to men in HR? Like what does that ratio look like? Is it typically like a 50-50? Do you find that like do you have like more men in HR, more women in HR? Is it a nice salad? Like what does the HR personnel look like?
hmm
Is that even a fair question to ask?
I think it's a fair question. I don't have the data to
Yeah.
give you an exact answer on that. I can, based on my experience, I've worked for and with more women. However, in some industries, I've seen a slant to men. So I don't know the exact
Mm-hmm.
number. Um,
Okay. Okay.
But I think it balances out. Now I know some people argue with that and say there's not enough women, but I've just seen different industries. I've just seen different sways.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
I
mm.
I don't
Okay.
know the exact percentage to say, oh,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
declare it one way or the other.
yeah. Okay. It might be industry specific. So maybe in industries that tend to interest more men, you might have more men there, and I don't know. I'm speaking out of my rear end now, but um, okay. So you wrote a book or two, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I'm in the process of writing a book, and I hate writing, so that goes to show you how long this is gonna take. So why did you start writing a book, and what's your most recent book about?
Yeah, so the first book was actually out of my dissertation, and it's all about servant leadership. And I worked in several servant leadership environments, and um, I was understand how servant leaders are, how they develop, and are they able to carry on in other organizations, and how does it impact and influence those cultures, those company
Mm,
cultures. Um, and so I wrote a book about that, and I'm a huge fan of servant leadership. I think there's a lot of value in it as a leadership style. My second book uh, was also in the making for quite some time, and it's all about feedback. And one of the challenges that I see, and I have seen in the workplace throughout my career is, how do you give feedback? And as much as people like to think they're good at it, some are and some are not. But the impact is just so dramatic, um, on staff. If it's a horrible style,
mm,
um, you know, but if it's a great, if it's a great leadership style of giving feedback, then I've seen employees flourish. Uh,
okay.
it's really interesting. I said this to someone some time back. If I had grown up in particular environments along my career, I don't know if I would be where I am today. And so uh, I think there are leaders that can mobilize and grow and help people thrive and produce some of the best leaders that I've seen. So I'm always curious to see where people are today and the leaders that, kind of mentored them along the way. Um, and so I took a lot of what I've seen in my career as what I know for sure works, and how to provide feedback in a constructive way. And that's what the second book is about. But I did it more so around storytelling, and I made it really simple so that someone could just pick it up and say, okay, I have to get some feedback on performance, and this is what I should say, and how I should do it. And I think now, as I mentioned before, the world is just so polarized. People don't know what to say, how to say it,
Mm,
or if
mm,
really negative feedback, it just comes up as what I call throw up. You just getting it out, and the impact of that can really be bad. So um, it's just my way of trying to put something out there that's positive to help
mhm.
leaders in a way that it's building a muscle, right? It's
Yeah.
not that people can, I think people can do whatever they want to do. Um, if they, put some time and effort into it. It's just building a muscle. So I see my second book, The Feedback Blueprint, as helping leaders build a muscle.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it's all about communication. It's all um, I've worked for some really, you know, dynamic leaders that were really artful at giving feedback. Um, they would start with, this is what went well, and do you mind if I share some observations, and really kind of coach you through the
Mm,
feedback. And that's really what makes it tangible for someone. Oh, okay, so I need to do this differently on the project versus, not having the information. Withholding information, I think, is the worst because a
mm,
person
mm.
can't change what they don't know, right?
Right. Right.
And so, someone once said, it wasn't me, someone once said, feedback is a gift. And
Mm,
I've heard that a lot throughout my career, and the more I hear it, the more I appreciate it because it really is. If it's coming from the right place.
mm,
Um, but I've seen employees sit in a position and just be totally demotivated and don't know why they're not being promoted, and
mm,
uh, no one has taken the time to. say, hey, you should show up a little bit differently, and this is why, and I like to work with you on that. Um, I don't see that. I don't see that a lot, and I think that's the part of humanity um, I've seen along my career that has really helped employees thrive.
Okay, can you drive it home for us here? What this servant leadership means? I mean, it's an umbrella term, but can you kind of like align it a little bit so that we make sure that I understand what this is?
Yeah, servant leadership in the workplace is basically, the leader having a selfless way of engaging with their team, looking at, what's in the best interest of each individual as an individual to learn and grow. The best servant leaders that I've seen are individuals that really take the time to understand the nuances of the people they lead. Because how you might give me feedback might be different than the way you give my coworker feedback. But the best servant leaders that I've seen are those that, you know, authentically and I always say humanity because I'm amazed by some things, but just having that humanity around care, right? Still have stern, still have expectations, still, have high performing um, styles of work, but it's how you engage, it's how you engage with that team. How do you, understand? Do they, are they left-handed or right-handed? Do they like to work in the morning or in the afternoon? Are they more analytical or creative? But how do you get the best out of that person? Um, to accomplish the work. And a servant leader will think of that individual first before, um, what's in it for them. They look
Yeah.
at what's in it. How can I help this employee, and how does it help the greater good of the organization?
Okay, that's a good answer. I like that. You briefly brushed over the term of mentorship, and I know we're coming to the top of the hour here, but I wanna explore that just a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
the importance of having a good mentor, and then if you can dive a little bit more into how does one go about finding a mentor, that would be great.
Yeah, I think mentorship is so important. It is just so important. There are, every company has, I say, unwritten rules and cues, and if you're not aware of them, it sometimes can, hurt your career. And so, learning how to navigate um, issues and different scenarios in a workplace, I think mentorship is more important than ever. I've always had a mentor. I think a good mentor is, someone that can listen without judgment, but really, understand your learning and your work style to provide insights and guidance, um, and in your development. Um, I've always been more proactive about who my mentor should be. Typically outside of the company I work for, typically I reached out to folks that were in different industries or different backgrounds because I wanted to round out my background. So it really depends on what is it that you want to learn. But also take an assessment. So, you're hearing from others as well. Um, and I would typically take the feedback that I received and look at, well, who can help me develop in these areas and who will, take the time uh, with me. And I drove the relationship. We would meet monthly. Here are my questions. Here's what the one thing I want to work on,
Yeah.
and then that also helps the mentor. It's respectful of their time because then they have a focused effort of, okay, well,
Yeah.
this person needs help with communicating, you know, and or to the organization, so I can, they know exactly how to support you. Um, but I think mentors are good, and the selection of mentors is really important. I typically, and everybody has their own preference. I typically look for mentors outside of my industry and companies. However, it depends. If you're in a complex organization, you would want someone within the organization to help you understand the landscape. So
Mm,
it
mm.
it depends.
Okay, okay. Wow, we covered quite a bit, and we're already coming to the top of the hour here. But I want to finish off by exploring a topic that, well, a question that I didn't ask already. What is your absolute earliest memory as far as you can remember
My earliest memory of
in life?
in life, wow, I don't know.
What's the
No,
first thing that comes to mind?
the first thing that comes to mind is learning how to ride a bicycle when you mentioned that. I don't know why that came to
Okay,
mind.
okay.
And on the block where I lived, which is really interesting because half the people on the block were my cousins. But anyway, we never lived too far from each other. It was just kind of weird. But anyway, but there was a new family that moved, and they were older, and
Mhm,
they were considered hip, and they were the older
mhm.
kids, and um, the summer they moved in, they taught us all how to ride the bikes, and we were like the parents had blocked off the streets, and we were in this trying to learn how to ride the bikes, um and it's interesting you asked that question. I don't know why I thought of that because it was just so chaotic. Like we were all learning how. It was like 10 of us trying to learn how to ride a
Oh,
bike. We're bumping into each other, falling in the streets, and you know it was the most chaotic scene. But
hmm,
it was, I don't know, it was fun. It was something that, and I have many memories like that where first time learning was with my family and friends. Uh,
hmm, hmm.
I think that creates a safety net of support. I don't know, that maybe, wires something in your DNA. Um, so I don't know. I don't know why I was drawn to that memory. Eh,
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but a lot of my learning moments was with family and friends. So
Hmm, hmm. Okay, it looks like that kind of came full circle, right? Because
mm,
HR is a chaotic environment, and you're always trying to figure out, um, I guess, who works how, who benefits who. How do you inspire leaders and everything? And everybody has their own. It's a chaotic environment, bumping into each
yeah,
other metaphorically, and so
metaphorically, that's an interesting way to look at it. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
write that. I'm gonna
yeah,
have to think
yeah,
that one
yeah.
through. Yeah,
So, wow. Thank you so much, Tania, for,
thank
for
you.
dropping in here and sharing some of your wisdom with us. If people want to learn more about you, where do they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I have an Instagram, the Leadership Wise. I'm on Instagram, and I do have a website, theleadershipwise.com. So
Hmm.
it's pretty
TheLeadershipWise.com.
wise. And that's all about leading with wisdom. I think there's a lot to having wisdom and how you lead.
Mm-hmm. Tania, I appreciate you dropping by the Moses Kabandana Podcast. It's been amazing having
Thank
you
you.
here, and a happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday. Thank you.